Oh, welcome back to Tea is Good, Books Are Better, the podcast where we drink tea and talk about books. My name is Raven.
And I'm Jess.
And we're drinking tea. What are we drinking today, Jess?
Strawberry, grapefruit, Zulong, green tea. From Tiana. I like this one because you can actually see the chunks of grapefruit.
Fuck.
Oh, looks like you like this one. Huh?
Inhale it. Do it.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, I smell.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a nice sour citrus.
Yep.
Yep.
I like when it's piping hot.
Do you?
Yeah.
That's
I want my tongue to melt out of my mouth.
That's how I kill my taste buds.
Maybe that's why I can't taste. I'm just kidding. All right. So, in our last episode, we talked about Cry to Heaven, Part 1, Chapters 1 through 5.
Yeah.
And now we're going to talk about Chapters 6 through 10.
Yay.
And it's super exciting. You should, if you haven't already, listen to Episode 2. This is Episode 3.
Subscribe.
Yes, subscribe. And like.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe, bitches. Hey, that would work if this is on
YouTube,
but
hey,
nowhere else.
Why not put it on YouTube?
All right, we'll get this on YouTube. All right. Chapter 6 of Anne Rice's Cry to Heaven, written in 1982. So, Chapter 6 is with Tonio. Again, Tonio's perspective.
Yeah.
By the time Tonio is 14, his mother is ill with melancholia, which is basically another word for depression. It's what they called it in the old days. She stays in bed most of the time and is drunk and stumbling whenever she gets up, which pains Tonio to see.
Mm-hmm.
She is also convinced that she was the best singer in the Pieta back in the day, which shocks Tonio to learn. But Lena, his nurse, tells him that all the girls of the conservatories were praised and loved, so Marianne is basically just confused.
She's probably just delusional, really depressing in the good old days, you know what I mean?
Yeah, she's like idolizing her past.
Yeah.
When really it probably wasn't that great either.
True.
Lena tries to send Tonio away whenever Mariana is having such an episode, but Mariana wants him to stay and sing for her. She says she would have stayed with the opera and lived out of trunks with her son. And then she says, "Ah, no, but look at you, His Excellency, Marc Antonio Treschi." So she seems to hold some bitterness or resentment towards her son.
Yep. He ruined her life. She could have been a great singer, apparently.
Yeah. So it is...
She probably blames her depression and how much she hates.
Exactly. It seems like she believes he's taken her life from her.
Mm-hmm.
So Lena starts preventing people from seeing Mariana with vague diagnoses about what she's dealing with. So this includes Katrina and Andrea, so she keeps both of them away from Mariana. Tonio becomes tempted to sneak out for the first time.
Ooh.
The city is preparing for the Feast of the Ascension, the grandest of all Venetian holidays. But Tonio knows he'll only witness it through his windows.
Aww.
So he's super excited, but also kind of resentful at the same time. Like, he wants to go, but he can't go. But he is excited to see what he will see of it. During the celebration, he gathers little gifts to throw to the street singers under his window, so they'll stick around longer. Which is so sad.
So desperate for human interaction.
Yeah, he just wants anyone to, like, talk to or spend time with.
Any sort of tension.
So he throws little gifts to these singers, including a gold watch. Damn, Tonio. They must love him.
Yeah.
So they ask who he is, and he sings back to them that he's the one in Venice who loves them the most. And he continues singing, and they listen intently and applaud for him when he's done, which makes his heart swell.
Aww.
And then he rips the jeweled buttons off his coat and tosses them down to them. But sometimes the singers come really late, or they don't come at all, and he's left at the window dreaming about being able to sneak out of the house. He dreams about life as a singing street urchin, rather than a rich patrician.
It says a lot.
Yeah, he wants the simple life. One afternoon, Beppo, one of Tonio's tutors, an old castrato, brings Alessandro to the house to hear Tonio and his mother sing. In case you don't remember, Alessandro is the eunuch from chapter...
When he was a
when he was a
5-year-old
child,
little
yes.
boy.
Yes. Tonio believes Beppo should have known that Mariana was confused when she had invited them, so he's pretty mortified that they actually showed up. Yeah. His mother's asleep at the time, so Tonio goes to welcome them as if he's the master of the house. He explains that she's ill and that he's ashamed to sing for Alessandro alone. Tonio sends Beppo to get coffee and begins setting up his harpsichord. I don't know if that's how you say it, but...
It looks like it says that.
Harpsichord. Yes. Alessandro apologizes, saying he never meant to disturb them, and that he had only planned on sitting in the corner while they did their thing. He also says he remembers Tonio's voice and that he could never forget it. Yeah. So Tonio obviously, takes the compliment. He asks him to sit, willing to play for him out of sheer loneliness and desire for company. This poor fucking child.
I know.
Someone help him.
Please.
God, he needs a friend so bad.
Get him out of that house.
Yeah. Beppo returns with music and Lena with coffee. Tonio, for some reason, coffee kind of brings me out of the story. I don't know why. It feels so modern.
No.
But I guess coffee's been around forever, but... As I sip tea. Tonio becomes desperate to entertain Alessandro so magnificently that he'll return again and again and again.
Oh.
I know. It's just breaking my damn heart. Poor Tonio.
He's a slut for attention.
So Tonio sings and plays for him, and when he's done, he beckons Alessandro to join him. So they sit together and sing and sing and sing until it's dark. Alessandro tells Tonio he has a real gift. Afterwards, Tonio invites Alessandro to stay for supper, so they dine together and chat and laugh and tell anecdotes. They're talking about singing and how Tonio has never seen the opera before, but would really like to, when Andrea shows up with his secretary and a few other people. Dun dun dun! Papa! Papa! So Tonio is super worried that his father will be angry that he invited a guest to stay for dinner, but surprisingly, Andrea actually seems pleased. I was just as surprised as Tonio.
Same.
So Andrea sits next to Alessandro, and they all have dinner. After dinner, Tonio sings for his father for the first time, and Alessandro joins in. Tonio notices how old his father is looking in the present company, and even how he seems a little uncertain at times. It also seems painful for Andrea when they finally have to wish Alessandro good night. So this is some interesting characterization for Andrea. Makes me wonder sort of what's going on in his head, you know? Well, why he's got these expressions that Tonio is seeing. What they mean. But I'm sure we'll find out. Andrea walks Tonio to his room afterwards and tells him he's pleased with him and that he's a gentleman. Super cute. As Tonio tries to sleep, he feels agitated. The supper was so much like his dreams, but he can't really stand it being over now. So he gets up at 3 a.m. and wanders the house, ending up at the roof. As he looks out at the city, he thinks about his future and is determined to end up with a wife who is never sad, which is like his mom. To always have grand balls. I think it means
people.
Dances.
He just wants people. He wants crowds. He wants party.
Yeah. No eunuchs around.
He wants loud.
They need grand balls. No eunuchs.
Oh, what put your friend Alessandro?
I'm joke. Do you get the joke?
Oh.
That took a while. Alright. And he's also determined to move his wife's whole family into the house because he wants to be surrounded by people all the time.
Poor guy.
He wants a giant family. He wants strong sons with lots of friends who are always coming and going. And he's determined to never leave his children alone in the house.
Oh.
Very, very telling about what this poor child has dealt with.
Yeah.
In his short life so far. Yes. So with these thoughts still with him, he goes down to his mother's room and climbs into bed with her, and he sleeps and dreams and realizes she's just as lonely as he is. She wakes up and asks him to pass her the bottle, calling him my darling and my treasure. She drinks and passes out again, and Tonio just watches her, and it's just like a little moment between them both, and it's pretty sad. The next morning, Angelo, who I forgot who that was. Who's Angelo? Who was Angelo?
I have personally forgotten as well. Is that a tutor?
Probably a tutor. Okay, the next morning, Angelo tells Tonio from now on they would take an hour's stroll every day in the piazza, as his father says he's now old enough.
Yay!
Yay! So that's Tonio's wish come true to get out of the fucking house. Woo! Tonio! Wish come true. Alright, all you gotta do is be a gentleman.
Yeah. Prove to your papa that you can host guests.
Yes. Papa! Alright, and that's the end of chapter 6. What was your summary of that chapter?
I wrote, Tonio is very lonely and desperate for human interaction. That's all I got out of that chapter.
Yes, that's
It was
basically
just a sad chapter for me.
Yeah, but really good characterization for Tonio.
You really get to know him.
Yes, we get really into his head. Alright, chapter 7. We're back to Guido. So, after Guido's sexual encounter with the maestro, he starts seeing sex everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like when you buy a car and you start seeing that car everywhere.
Horny bugger.
Yeah. He sees women checking him out, and he hears lovemaking at night.
It's more like he's listening for it.
Yeah.
Am I right?
He's like jacking off to it every night. Alright. So Guido starts hooking up with everyone around.
Boys and gals.
Gino, Alfredo, Alonso, sometimes even having threesomes.
Check this guy out.
He also sometimes encounters regular students, those who aren't eunuchs. So he describes them as violent and unloving, and Guido decides he doesn't really like them in bed
I
very
like
much.
how he describes how a man intact, like, just pump, 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 and it's done.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's no caressing or gentleness.
Where's the
afterwards.
foreplay, bitch?
Yeah. It's hysterical. But accurate.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Okay. Yeah, so he prefers eunuchs or women. He doesn't really like, you know, men with them grand balls.
Men who last 2 minutes,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yes, but it's with women, apparently, that he finds the most satisfaction. It says, the little girls of the streets, poor, never clever, were his favorite. So, Guido's a teen, right? Like, how old are these little girls? And I'm disturbed. Like, I picture them being actual children.
Hopefully the youngest is 12.
That's still too young.
That's...
Guido's how old at this point? 17.
Oof. Yeah,
Ew.
but like in this day and age,
I guess it was
that day,
normal.
17, 20? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. Probably around 13, 14. Seeing as Tonio's mama.
Gross.
Yep.
Alright. As Guido's fame increases, good God,
Excuse you.
ladies' doors start to open to him everywhere.
Oh,
By
shit.
the time he's 17, he has a regular mistress.
Look at that. He's getting laid.
Yeah, a Contessa who is very rich and twice married. And it doesn't say whether she's still married.
I love a description
Probably not.
of their...
They're-
of how they go about like the flush on her. I'm like, oh.
Oh, shit.
Oh.
Oh.
Ooh, I can see that in my brain.
She was old to him, past her prime, but still a vixen in the sheets.
She was probably in her 40s.
Yeah, babe. You get it. You get it, girl. So,
But the description of her flush to her nipples, I was like, oh,
yes.
I can see that. Means she likes it.
She is hot and bothered. So, Guido was almost ready for Rome and his lead role there. But when he turned 18, he lost his voice forever.
Plot twist!
What the fuck?
Guido!
And that's where the chapter ends. I was like, excuse me, bitch?
Excuse me? Yeah, that's
Cliffhanger
like
much?
quite the ending. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
Guido!
Lost his voice. What the hell? I don't even have any predictions as to why. Like,
Right? Apparently it's a thing that happens to some castrati. They don't keep their voice.
oh shit.
Which is
So it's
super
just a
sad.
natural phenomenon? Well, you just spoiled it for me, bitch.
How is that a spoil?
All right. So that's the end of chapter 7.
Yeah.
And we are now on to chapter 8. So, we're back to Tonio, who is obviously super pumped and super excited about visiting the piazza.
Every day.
Hell yeah! So, on their first visit, there are people everywhere, cafes, striped
What?
awnings.
Worse.
Tonio notices that the serving girls at the cafe have bare arms, described as deliciously naked.
Man, did you read that little snippet at the end where if women were dressed like this all the time, it would be the end of civilization?
Yes, I wrote that down. Wearing
Okay.
short skirts and bright red vests, and he thinks to himself, if ladies dressed like that regularly, it would mean the end of civilization, and I wrote a giant LOL.
I love the description, like, of him getting a boner.
Oh shit, I must have missed that
Oh
part.
man, there was a description of that, like seeing like her bare arms and whoop, the hardening of
yes,
the organ
yes.
or whatever.
It described it as the hardening. Yeah, he just sees her bare arms and he's like,
Whoop.
damn!
Probably not used to
Just
that.
like tenting in the middle of the piazza. Anyway. Tonio's delighted by everything in the piazza, the markets, the bridge, the storytellers, and even the beggars he finds interesting. Each day, Tonio pushes Angelo to stay a little later and go a little farther, but Angelo doesn't really let him stop in a Angelo doesn't let him stop in any cafes or buy
Lame.
anything, or it's super
Lame,
lame.
Angelo.
I mean, at least they're walking
Let him
through.
enjoy himself.
But yeah, he should enjoy himself. The booksellers is the most fascinating to Tonio, as there are people inside drinking coffee and wine and discussing the theater.
Ooh.
Ooh,
Sounds
the theater.
posh.
Sounds very posh. After 4 days of this, he spots Alessandro in the piazza, headed for the
BFF.
booksellers.
Oh my god, his favorite store too?
Yes, and he decides to make a break for it. So he escapes Angelo and follows Alessandro into the booksellers. They embrace and say hi.
Aw.
Then Tonio starts to hear his name being muttered around.
Tonio, what did I say? That's Tonio. Treschi.
Do you hear that? That's Tonio. That's Tonio Treschi. What? Where?
Andrea Treschi's son. Right there.
Holy shit balls! Look at that kid. Damn. I don't know if the mic's picking up any of that. Okay. Alessandro then introduces him to the people in the place. Someone asks Alessandro whether he thinks Caffarelli is the greatest singer in all of Europe, but Alessandro says he can't answer because he hasn't heard him sing yet. A very
Honest?
honest answer.
Hmm.
Tonio is marveling at everything and invites Alessandro to have a cup of wine with him,
Ooh.
which he agrees to.
Of course.
And then we have this line. And then the meeting took place, which was to change the very color of the sky, the aspect of the snow-white clouds, and make the day take on a dark resonance.
Oh my goodness.
So, solid line. This kind of thing is effective, I believe, in making the reader want to continue reading.
Hmm.
But I will say, even though it's a beautifully written line, I do feel some resistance
Yeah.
towards it, and I'll explain why.
Okay.
I think it's definitely more of an old-fashioned thing. I don't think it happens as much in modern fiction. Jesus. To me, it feels kind of like a spoiler. Like, yes, I want to keep reading, but now I'm not going to be surprised by whatever occurs. Like, it's not going to feel like a natural sort of reaction for me. Like, it's not going to catch me off guard.
I
don't
feel
know.
like as it comes up, what darkens his day, you don't quite understand that it's like as bad for him. You know what I mean? Like it will like really diminish his day and like really upset him.
Yeah. I guess my argument would just be that there are other ways to sort of accomplish that. Because for me, this takes away from the actual surprise of the interaction, which we'll get to. But, you know, I mean,
I guess
it's a technique.
sure.
And I'm just one opinion.
I suppose.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk a bit more about how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as they leave, some creepy, tall, blonde man follows them. And as Tonio and Alessandro are trying to choose a cafe to go to, the man touches Tonio's arm and asks him if he remembers him. Tonio apologizes and says he doesn't. Then the man asks if Tonio has heard from his brother Carlo lately. Tonio denies having such a brother, but he runs the name over in his head over and over. Carlo, 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 like a whisper echoed in a corridor.
Is that familiar? Carlo?
Yeah.
Why does it seem familiar? Carlo.
Yes, so at this point I'm immediately assuming that Carlo must be one of the Treschi family's big secrets. Maybe that's obvious, but Anne Rice does something clever. She says the name is like a whisper echoed in a corridor, when earlier on she says that stuff about Tonio sensing secrets in his own house, hearing names whispered in the corridors and then denied. So Carlo must be one of those names, and I think it's kind of cool how she makes that connection. Yes, very well done. Alessandro tries to take Tonio and leave, but this creepy dude is like, "You know nothing of your brother?" And his face is all smirky, like he knows things that Tonio doesn't about the Treschi family.
Typical dick.
Yeah, I'm super creeped out. This guy eventually reveals he was in Istanbul with Carlo, and that he's Tonio's cousin, Marcello Lissani. So I recognized the last name, and I was like, is this Katrina's kid? Katrina Lissani? Remember Katrina, the visitor?
Right!
The one-sided
the
conversation?
cousin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Apparently Carlo has been asking how Tonio is, and Marcello says it saddens him to tell Carlo that Tonio knows nothing about him. So I was like, was Carlo disowned from the family? We'll find out. I'm curious about, like, whether you had any thoughts when you first read it. Like, if you remember, because that was a while ago.
First read it,
Like, what you, like...
I was very curious.
Yeah.
Who is Carlo? Like, secret brother that we know nothing about? What? Like, it
But did
very spiked my curiosity.
So you immediately assumed Marcello was telling the truth, then? About Carlo being a long-lost brother or some shit?
I don't quite remember if I had other, like, thoughts, like, is he a liar? Especially when it got further in the chapter where it confirmed that he is the cousin.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
So,
really.
Alessandro keeps trying to drag Tonio away until Marcello calls him a damned insufferable eunuch, which was clearly meant to be very offensive. So they finally leave and they go sit at a cafe, and Angelo is suddenly saying that guy was a lunatic, and I was like, where did Angelo come from? Like, was he here the whole time?
I guess
like,
he was
what the
just
fuck?
following, like, meekly, like, oh shit.
Yeah, like
I just wanted to walk through and go back home. God damn it.
Yeah, like I thought that Tonio had escaped him, but no, apparently he followed him.
Yeah.
Okay. At the cafe, Alessandro starts immediately talking about other stuff, and Angelo is going on and on about not knowing that guy and wondering why he was saying those things. Jesus. This tea's making me belch.
Same with the last one, apparently.
Tonio's just kind of out of it. The pretty server girl even bends over and he catches a glimpse of her nips. But
pink nipples galore.
But even that doesn't really take his mind off what just happened with Marcello.
Apparently he's really shooken up.
Yeah, he is shooketh.
Shook.
He's shooketh. Tonio then asks Alessandro straight up whether he has a brother in Istanbul. And that's the end of the chapter. And I think that's a great way to end it. I prefer this method to what happened with Guido.
Yeah.
So, let me explain. Saying straight up that his 18th year was the year he lost his voice forever. As I said before, I feel kind of like that's a spoiler.
You're right.
Sure, like now I want to know how it happens.
Ooh.
Yes, now I want to know how it happens, but you know, we already know the result, so it feels like a little bit cheap to me. Maybe that's just me, but for this, like the reason I like this method, ending the chapter before we hear Alessandro's answer, is because it's like leading somewhere unknown versus leading somewhere known.
Maybe it's because of the character. Like, Tonio is the main character. It's more like sneaky. Get this? Whereas Guido's more of a secondary.
I see what you mean. This is actually something that they do a lot in movies. They'll have one character ask another character something or tell another character something. and the scene will end before we see their response.
Yeah.
And it's a really good way of creating drama. So, well done for this one.
Drama.
Yes. Good writing leaves the... This is something also that I've learned in creative writing.
Yeah.
That good writing is supposed to leave the reader wondering what's going to happen next, not focusing on what is currently happening in the moment. Does that make sense?
Like clickbait.
I don't know if that's accurate, but okay.
It makes you want to click and it says something, you're like, oh, click. And you go in just because you just want to know what happens.
Well, I don't know if it's just like that, because it's
Abby.
not just like these endings, but also like as you're reading it, you should be like being like, oh, what's that gonna lead to? What's that gonna lead to? What's that gonna lead to?
Oh, shit.
Versus like, ooh, this right now is interesting. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, having both is obviously good, but wondering what's happening next is what keeps the reader going. That's the end of chapter 8. What did you have for chapter 8?
I wrote, who is Carlo?
Mm-hmm.
Who is this mysterious gent that this apparent cousin keeps talking about?
Yes, I do have some predictions later on.
Yeah,
for
chapter 9, I'm gonna ask you another.
Okay. So, chapter 9.
Chapter 9.
So that night, Tonio was standing in the grand salon, thinking. It turns out Alessandro didn't answer his question back in the cafe. He just looked away, which pretty much answers the question.
Yeah. Like, ooh, no.
Yeah.
He can't. Nice, you know what? He can't lie to him.
He won't lie to him, yeah. Tonio does have a faint memory of Marcello, so he's positive he is his cousin.
Mm-hmm.
He's also certain he recognizes the name Carlo. He asks Lena about the name, too, and she doth protest too much. She also forbids Tonio from asking his mother about the names or any of his dead siblings. So there is some serious shit going on. Tonio seriously considers angering his father for the first time in his life by asking him about it. Which is like, damn, this kid like wants to know really bad.
Well, like, who wouldn't?
Yeah, true. He wanders through the salon, checking out the pictures of his dead siblings, and comes across a picture of a relative who looks remarkably similar to him. And he remembers someone saying, just like Carlo, when he had walked into the booksellers. Ooh, shit. He realizes the photo is right next to Andrea's, and that this person is in another photo as well with Andrea's first wife. But when Tonio goes into the supper room, where the family portrait is, he sees this Carlo person is not in the picture, and is not sure whether he's disappointed or relieved. Until... But then he sees that the spacing of the brothers in the picture is a little odd. Oh shit, and Andrea's robe is enlarged on one side. And when Tonio looks closer, the enlarged part isn't even the same color as the rest of his robe.
This little detective.
Yeah, so Tonio lifts his light up close to the portrait and sees the shadow of Carlo underneath the paint. And he almost screams. Yeah, that's a pretty... Jesus, that's like seeing a ghost, I feel like.
Yeah, that would be like... This is so staggering and like... it would shake your whole life. Like, what?
Yeah, like...
my whole life was being alive.
Exactly, it would flip your whole world upside down.
Yeah. You know, he grew up being told that he's the last of his line. Turns out he's not. There's a brother.
Indeed. And for some reason, he doesn't know anything about him. And why?
So, do you have any theories?
My theories about...
Carlo, actually.
My theories about Carlo. Like about why he was disowned?
Yeah, what's going on here? Why was he wiped from the portrait?
Yeah, like it must have been something dramatic. I think... Okay, I did have a theory, but it doesn't make sense until we finish chapter 10.
Shall I wait?
Yes, I will answer it. Okay. So, chapter 10. The next day, when Tonio gets home from the piazza, Lena tells him his mother has been asking for him. Apparently, when she woke up and found out he wasn't there, she threw a fit. But Tonio is incapable of caring about it because he had just seen Alessandro at the piazza, and Alessandro had basically turned tail and run the other way when he saw Tonio coming.
Doesn't want to talk about Carlo.
Yeah, he didn't want to answer any more questions about Carlo. Only one thing is on Tonio's mind.
Carlo.
That Carlo lives and is in Istanbul. And that means Tonio is not the last of his line.
Mm-hmm.
He wonders what Carlo must have done to be cast out of the family and why Carlo never married.
Mm-hmm.
So Lena tells Tonio to go in to see his mother, but again forbids him from bringing up his brother, which is exactly what Tonio had intended to do. He's determined to find answers. He gets this feeling that his father's age, his mother's youth, his mother's misery, and the unspoken things in their family are all connected.
Yep.
But it also terrifies him that they might not be connected at all. That this is just life. I mean,
that
real.
would be flabbergasting.
Yeah.
Too. Like, oh.
Right? He's also feeling impatient with his mother for throwing a fit and breaking things.
Right.
Which I don't blame him. Relatable.
Yep.
Tonio tells Lena to go away so he can be with his mother alone. And Lena begs him to set her straight because she worries about Andrea seeing her like this. Tonio doesn't understand why that's a problem. And Lena just tells him he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, alright, Lena, fucking bitch. Like, just get out. Inside the room, Mariana is at the keyboard. And when Tonio comes in, she asks him why he left her. So Tonio says he will take her walking with him from now on, but Mariana doesn't seem to want to. She wants to stay trapped up in her room.
She's isolated herself.
She has isolated herself for sure. Mariana asks Tonio to sing, so he does, but then he stops and tells her about what he had learned. Despite Lena's warnings,
Can't keep it in.
he can't keep it in. So he tells her what Marcello had told him about the ghosty image in the portrait as well. Antonio notices that she actually seems to be really listening.
Like she's there.
Yeah, and something about her demeanor is changing as he talks. Like she's coming back into the room, into reality. So then, really seriously, she asks him, there are pictures of him in this house? Da, da, da. So she has acknowledged his existence.
Yep.
He takes her to the supper room and shows her the painted over image in the portrait. And Mariana suddenly becomes the angry mother of his childhood. This part was hard for me to read.
Yeah,
like
the freaking out and hitting at him.
She
and stuff.
starts attacking Tonio and like beating him.
Just screaming and slapping and scratching.
Oh, it's horrible. And yeah, Tonio gets really angry
And hurt and upset.
He's obviously very hurt and upset.
The description of his, like, his crying and stuff, because he's really upset by this.
That was an intense scene.
Mm-hmm.
It says, he never in his life so hated her.
Yeah.
Yikes. Then Andrea walks in the middle of the beating. Dun dun dun! Andrea! Papa! As soon as Mariana sees him, she collapses into his arms. And it says Tonio has never seen his father touch his mother before. So I was like, whoa, is that normal? Like, back in that time? Like, what?
It was so formal.
Yeah, I guess they just have a super formal way of living. Super formal
Well, they don't
family.
even sleep together, you know?
Mm-hmm. So Andrea whispers, my children, as he looks at Mariana and then at Tonio.
Telling.
So then I was starting to question their whole family dynamic. I was like,
Oh.
hold up.
Oh.
Yeah. Mariana says she wants to die, and Andrea sends Tonio out of the room. And that's the end of chapter 10. So, my theory, I could be way off.
Could be.
This is kind of dark.
Ooh.
So I was wondering if maybe Mariana is Andrea's daughter, not his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Tonio is her bastard child, Andrea's grandson. And there's like, maybe Mariana was like raped by her brother, Carlo. And that's what got Carlo kicked out of the family.
Ugh, that would be...
I know, it's horrible. And hopefully I'm way off.
What
but
an awful idea.
Yeah, so hopefully
Can't
I'm
say
way off.
shit.
Yeah, don't say anything. Don't spoil anything. But
Is that your...
that's my theory for why Carlo was kicked out of the family. It's because he raped his sister.
Can you imagine?
Ugh.
Awful. Oh my god.
Did you have any theories at this time when you first read it?
I don't think.
I know it's hard to think that far back.
No, I really don't remember.
Well, you probably just kept
I
reading.
probably just
so.
kept reading.
Yeah, I mean,
I had to figure this out, so I just kept going.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether I'm right or wrong.
Hmm.
Hopefully wrong, because that's fucked up.
Yeah, that's pretty fucked up, yo.
Yeah. Wow, guys, that's the end of
Yeah.
chapter 10 already. It's only been like 36 minutes of recording. What did you like? What was your, like I said, for me, the scene with Mariana like becoming the angry mother again and like beating him was the
upsetting. It you know, like, I want to bring this up, but you know, growing up with a parent that was able to flip at 1 second, like in a second, from like happy to like terrible rage, it was pretty relatable.
Yeah.
And to understand like the unhappiness Tonio felt, like he was just trying to share something and to learn and to have the parents they completely flip out was pretty relatable.
Yeah, and like the part earlier on where it says that he kind of has to like walk on eggshells around her. Yeah, also
Very relatable. Kind of like a lot of like the stress of his home life, kind of about having to like, you know, try to help the parent, make the parent happy, do what they can for the parent, to not just so that they don't, you know, switch, you know.
It's so backwards. It's so twisted.
Is it weird that I find this relatable?
Yeah. Well, it's not weird, but it's
shouldn't be
not
normal.
good. Yeah. But yeah, I feel you. We had the same parents.
What? We're sisters?
Holy shit! We're related?
We came from the same people?
Yes.
So, what do you think of the book so far? Has it intrigued you?
It is definitely intriguing. I'm definitely curious about what the hell happened with Carlo. Jesus, like poor Mariana. She's
She's really
fucked in the
She
head.
needs help.
She
But
really
at
needs
that
help.
time, like, you know, like, what's she gonna get? Pray?
Yeah, and
Go to
lock her up in her
church.
room so no one else can witness her
Yeah, so, like,
atrocious
no one
behavior. Yeah.
And back then, mental illness wasn't a thing. It was more, she's just a woman experiencing woman frenzy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. It's fucked. But yeah, I'm definitely intrigued. I will say that this is probably not my genre. Like, this is not really the type.
Definitely knew.
You knew that?
Yeah. I don't think you read these kind of stories.
Yeah.
You're more
I'm probably a
fantasy.
Yeah. This is like a bit too real for me. You know?
It's hitting you hard and you're
Yeah.
like, ooh.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I just want to escape.
Right.
I like Marvel movies. And I like
cute animes.
yeah. You know.
If it makes me feel good, I like it.
Well, I like to feel in general, so
This is like
it's working.
feel, eh?
It's making me feel.
Just not what you want to feel.
Well, we'll see. I'm curious about how it's gonna end.
Ooh.
Endings are like very different for every writer.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about how Aunt Rice ends it. Has my writer's mind brought anything to attention for you? That
Yeah,
you
I
haven't
had a
noticed?
few things today. The style she writes.
Like the exposition kind of thing?
Yeah, that stuff. It's not something I really pay attention to when I read. I'm used to reading, you know, books of this style. Like, I don't really read newer stories as much, just because I have just so many books. I still want to buy more.
Yeah.
But I'm so used to this kind of this style, especially since Anne Rice is my favorite. So I'm
Yeah.
so
you've
used
just
to
read
reading
a
her
lot
style
of
of
her.
her.
Oh, now we know the difference between exposition and scene. Yes.
Plus, I appreciate the way she writes about sex. It's not nasty like some authors do it. Like they really butcher it. Authors. Some authors.
Jesus,
Some authors.
Jess.
Some authors really make it gross, and
Yeah.
I just like skip the pages.
Yeah.
But personally, for me, I appreciate that she makes it
It's
more
like she doesn't skip right over it.
tastier, like
Ew.
more.
You mean tasteful?
Yeah, tasteful. Yeah, more tasteful.
Less vulgar.
Easier to consume.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. She like some authors either just skip right over it or they like describe it in like too much detail.
But like it's weird, like
I don't want to feel like the folds of his dick as he like enters you. Like ew.
Yeah, I don't want to be like gross out. Like I'm
Yeah.
watching something and then like I shouldn't. And, like ooh.
Yeah. I mean, you probably should be grossed out when it's appropriate to be grossed out.
Sure.
But when it's supposed to be like, you know, a romantic,
It's supposed to be a sexy,
Sorta like-
and it's supposed to be into it, and but all it does is like
make you go ugh.
like make the hair stand up, and you're like getting like chills, but like bad. Like I don't want to see this. Like you know, like some sex scenes in movies, I have to like cover my face because I just feel so awkward. Like makes it.
Yeah.
But I like the way she writes it.
Yeah,
Even though I
I
was
agree.
shocked.
I would agree that it's tasteful. Not tasty.
Tasty. It was
Ooh.
tasty.
Said tasty sex.
Especially with that semen in his mouth.
Oh
Tasty.
god. I didn't even remember that part. Maybe I just blocked it out of my head. I was like, ew.
You just get through it. You're like, I don't want to hear about BJ's.
Yeah, well, I was like, how do I sum this up? Like, I don't want to write the details.
He sucked some dick, yeah.
Yes, he did.
For a first timer, he did pretty well. I guess. I like the tidbit that the maestro told him. You're gonna get laid, bro. You're gonna
Shit.
get laid.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that's what he was saying, but yeah. I realize that now, so I learned something.
Well, it looks like someone's not getting laid anymore. He's lost his voice.
Oh shit, poor Guido.
Oh, shit, Guido.
How are they gonna connect? I'm like,
How?
what? I will say I do like the amount of detail. It's like not too much that it's overwhelming,
Yeah,
but it's like
tokens books.
but it's like a good amount that you like you can see it all.
See and feel and smell where you are.
Yes. Like the powdery fingers of Andrea. Like what?
Like totally.
Like that's
I know
so
him now.
real. Yeah. Like he's old.
He's an old man.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested to see how this all develops. We're gonna have to stop there unless you have any last things you want to say. Any last questions?
I think I spat out all I could. Oh, Jesus. Jesus.
Now I've spat out all I could.
Yikes.
I'm a nasty bitch. Alright. Okay, so next episode, we'll probably be doing chapters
15? Up to 15?
Yes, chapters 11 to 15. And it'll be a good time. We'll learn a lot more about what's happening with this strange ass family dynamic. Who the fuck is Carlo?
What happened?
Yeah, did
Did
he
he
actually rape Mariana?
Knock up his sister?
I hope
Incestuous
Okay,
baby Tonio?
Can I do want to ask you, although maybe you can't answer
That
without.
was tiniest chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. Okay. I want to ask you this. Maybe you can't answer without spoiling it, but what. You probably can't answer this without spoiling anything.
Okay.
But I'm curious about what you think of my theory.
I think.
Don't say anything that'll give it away, though.
I think.
Like, just
that
tell me if you
compared
think I'm
to
smart or if you think I'm an idiot.
The rest of the book, which has been pretty, like, gnarly with, like, obviously Mariana is pretty mentally ill.
Yeah.
The dad
something
is
has fucked her
very
up.
old.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wouldn't be, like, you know, that might be a theory I'd come up with, too, if I were, and I've never read this book before and stuff.
Okay.
Like, I don't think it's that,
You don't
like,
think I'm like
obscene,
this? Okay.
terrible,
It makes sense then.
you know?
Yeah.
Like, I can see it happening.
Yes. Tweet us your theories. But we don't have a Twitter.
It never will on Twitter.
You know what? We'll see. Twitter one day.
Maybe.
All right, so that is it for this episode. Join us next time for chapters 11 through 15 of Anne Rice's Cry to Heaven, written in 1982. Why do I keep bringing that up?
Why is that so important?
I don't know. It's interesting. Fun fact.
Is it?
I think it's a fun fact. When I found that out, I was like, oh.
This is an old book.
Can we talk about the cover of this book for a second?
Cool.
What the fucking hell is this?
So it looks like a window.
Is that
a large
okay.
window that's opening up to Venice. You can see the what do you call them? Like rivers or
This is a canal.
a canal. Yeah.
Canal.
And you can see a bridge in the distance with some buildings on both sides. So it's
And there's
pretty
the moon.
obviously
Mhm.
Venice at nighttime, where
Oh.
Tonio would open up the windows.
Tonio would look out.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is that a little man on the bridge?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it is.
There's a little person on the bridge. A tiny little speck of a
Yeah.
person.
So the whole book is red, except
Yes.
for the window out to Venice, which is blue. Because it's nighttime. Like the moon.
Interesting.
That is the cover.
That is the cover of this version. There's probably other versions.
Newer ones, yeah.
Yes. Fascinating. What had she written by the time she made it to this one?
Interview with the vampire. The vampire, the state. Came the damn tale. So basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 of the Vampire Chronicles.
Shit.
3 of the Mayfair Witches. And Tales of Vampires. 2 of them. Shit. So what I like most about these
Damn,
books. I'm not gonna
bitch.
talk about them. Sorry.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Yeah,
8,
she's
9,
had
10,
quite a
11,
few.
12, 13, 14,
Quite a
15,
few.
16, 17
Like, I know
novels.
these books were written in the 70s.
Mm. That's 17 novels by the time she got to this one. I can tell, for sure.
It probably not. Like, there's probably even more.
Yeah, well, obviously, she's, like, done a lot of writing.
Yeah.
At least 17 novels.
She's just pumping them out, like Stephen King style.
God damn. I'm, like, kind of in awe. How old is she? Like, was she when she first started publishing?
She looks kind of
More than 25
older
best-selling
there.
books. Damn.
damn.
Yeah, she
Okay,
looks like she was
sure.
middle-aged when she probably started publishing, but that's just impressive. Like, I can't even finish one fucking book.
Practice makes perfect.
I just need to, like, focus.
Yeah.
And,
Stick
like,
to one
just
story.
keep writing. Yeah, because I get too caught up, and I feel like I get too caught up in the little details, and I'm like, oh, if I'm changing this thing, I need to, like, go back and change everything all over again, and, like...
Everything. Goodness.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I need to just, like, pump it out, and then afterwards go back and, like,
Yeah, like
fix
tweak
all
it
the
up.
shit, but... It's just, maybe it's, like, my little, like, obsessive kind of personality where it's, like, I can't let this just sit in this
Maybe
mess.
you just keep notes of what you want to change, like what page and what.
Yeah, that's smart.
When you just do your best to like finish it out,
Right.
and then go back, update.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I get this, like, I've described this before to Michael, my boyfriend, how, like, I feel like I have a bunch of characters, like,
Yeah.
in my head,
I get that.
just kind of chilling, but then occasionally one of them will, like, walk up to the front of my skull and, like, start hammering on my skull and be like, it's my fucking turn. Like,
right.
write about me, bitch.
Or like one evolves.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You could be a writer.
I know. I don't have the patience for it though.
Yeah.
I'm good at creating characters, but like whole storylines and plots and such, it seems like too much work.
Well, it is a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's freaking, like, hard.
Hard.
It is hard. But if you do want to read something that I have had published, it's a short story.
Ooh, shit.
You can find it at pulpmag.ca. Go to the archives section. It is the one with the blue cover, with an eye and a hand and a silhouette of a woman. And it's page 29. It's called 2088 Adam.
I recommend it.
Oh, thanks. Oh, thanks, friend.
I like it. It's a good story.
Oh, thanks.
It's pretty short. It's a short story.
It is short.
but
It's a short story.
It's
So,
good.
Read it.
Read it.
And then follow me on Instagram at Crimbee. Crimbee.
Grimby.
Yeah, plug your Instagram, Jess.
Jess.egan24.
Mm-hmm. And that's us. Follow my writing career. Follow Jessica's life. And her cat.
I suppose.
She has a cat.
Yeah.
What else do you
Precious
post on
little baby.
Instagram?
And I guess lame selfies.
Lame selfies all around.
Yep.
All right. We should probably fucking wrap it up. They're like, are you done?
I feel like we wrapped it up a few times and we just kept lingering.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna have to
I'll
really
edit
this.
it. I'll edit it so it seems more smooth.
Yeah.
Oh, God, help us.
I have to pee.
All right. We're done. That's it. Thanks for listening, guys. Good night.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, come back next time. Bye. We love you. Bye.
Bye.